Oh, welcome. Good morning. It's so nice to see everyone here on this Friday. My name is Allison Weiss. I am the Associate Director of Corporate and Executive Education at the Brown University School of Professional Studies. And we are really excited today to share with you a little bit of information about our Leader as Coach program. I feel very passionately about the importance of leadership training in this program in particular, because even pre-COVID, there was a lot of research that showed how important it is and also how undertrained that skill is. So there's this huge gap between the importance of leadership and the competency and comfort of leaders. One Gallup poll, and this was pre-COVID, I feel like it's probably only gotten more important, showed that 70% of the employee engagement score variance between departments could be directly attributed to your direct manager. And then likewise, a Forbes article found that 95% of managers felt undertrained for their role as manager. So that's a pretty significant gap between how important your manager is to your day-to-day productivity, sense of wellness, sense of belonging, and managers' feeling of being ready to actually lead in a way that brings inclusivity, productivity to the workplace. And that's why these types of trainings like Leader as Coach are just so important. And I'm excited that we're here together to learn more about that today. And I feel especially honored to be partnering with ACT on this program because we have really strong shared values of social responsibility and engaging leaders in leadership in the world and the community and not just in the business sector. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Mike Hutchins, who is going to lead the rest of this webinar.
Thanks, Allison. So welcome to this call. This call is going to be about 30 minutes in total. If you have questions, please, you put them in the chat box at any time. I'll try and weave them in as we go through, and we'll also have time at the end of this call. This call is also being recorded, so for people that are unable to attend, we will make it available to them as well. So just building on what Allison said, we're going to talk a little bit more. Actually, first of all, just a quick introduction from myself. So I'm one of the co-founders of ACT Leadership. So my background is originally trained as a CPA and very technical as a consultant for many years, and realized that to be successful, there needed to be a lot more humanization of work. And that piece really felt like it was missing. So I didn't quite know how to go about doing that other than be real, but sort of be real plus get some skills as well. So that kind of led me on the journey to doing leadership and performance coaching and that sort of thing. So ACT now, you know, we've been running this business for about 10 years, and, you know, we do a lot of work with the US federal government. So we've trained close to 2,000 senior leaders within Department of Defense and other federal agencies in this Leader as Coach program. We also run a certification program for coaching at Brown University. We do team coaching and a lot of other things related to coaching through Brown and with the federal government, and then also in commercial sector as well. So let's go straight into the why and really just explore a little bit about, you know, what are we noticing that's shifting in the world right now, to put some context and some framing around this program. And then we'll go on to talk a little bit about the details of the program, what you can expect from the program in terms of the content, the program, and that sort of thing. So we'll get to that in a short while. First of all, just looking at the context and, you know, what we're seeing, and we're all living through this right now. There is, you know, and we've heard the expression change is unprecedented, and change is the norm. And it's sort of like, it's been amplified in many ways in the last couple of years, but certainly, you know, in the last 10, 15 years, whether it's through technology, whether it's through geopolitics, whether it's through social change, social justice, pandemics. I mean, we're leaders are being, and humans, we're all being confronted with so much change. And I think what is being challenged here is the traditional styles of leading. And when we say that, let's define what we mean by that. The sort of old ways of command and control of I'm the boss, I'm the expert, I have all the answers, and I'm going to tell you what to do, right? That model is still a form of leadership, and it still has its place in certain contexts, but less and less so. And so what we're seeing now is leadership being challenged to really become much more engaged with the workforce. So as Alison mentioned about, 70% of employees disengaged at work, that's not a good statistic. If you've got people coming to work that are not bringing their best, not being the full self, not being, bringing their whole self into work, then, that's a problem. So what we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years, with the advent of emotional intelligence, and various other things, is that leaders that are able to be more empathic, leaders that are able to connect with the workforce, to demonstrate more vulnerability, and really just connect, be able to listen, be able to ask questions differently, are much more effective at work. And people want to go and work for them, and that's pretty important, especially in the world we're in right now, where there's a real scarcity of, resources, and in the workforce. It's how do you attract that talent? How do you attract that top talent? So you're trying to find a way to lead that's going to enroll people, that is going to help them be most creative and resourceful. And we look at things like, think about customer service. Customers have become very fickle, right? If you don't give them what they want there and then, they're going to go somewhere else. So we're seeing this decentralization of power and decision-making authority to these more self-autonomous groups, where they're at the point of impact with the customer. And that's really where value gets created and destroyed. So, what we're seeing now is, and this is where we'll start introducing coaching. It's a way to build confidence within your workforce so that those people are able to be skilled in interacting with the customer, or interacting with other employees within the workforce. We also mentioned the fact that neuroscience has a lot to play with all of this. So, coaching was once considered this kind of woo-woo thing, and it was like, well, what is this touchy-feely? It used to be called when I did it, it was like soft skills. And it still is soft skills, so we're not taking that away. But what we're learning is that with neuroscience, and again, a lot of MRI scanning and everything else that's being done in conjunction with coaching, is that it actually opens up and creates neural pathways. It creates integration in the brain, the left brain, the right brain, the prefrontal cortex. All of these things come alive. It's like a firework display in the brain when you start asking questions differently, when you start asking open-ended questions, simple questions. What does that look like? How do we want to relate with each other in this conversation? What's an outcome that we want to get from this conversation? As opposed to, I need you to do this. Or you have to get this done in 30 minutes. Again, I'm not taking that away. That's going to be happening all the time in business. We have to achieve results and get things done. But if that is the only way that we lead, the question then is, how much are we really empowering our workforce? So coaching, to define coaching, it's really to have the light bulb go off in the other person's head. You are facilitating, you are guiding your employees to make the connections for themselves so that they have the critical thinking skills to be able to solve their own problems. And so they're not dependent on you as a leader. Keep coming back saying, hey boss, I need help. You're challenging them to think for themselves. We're also really looking a lot around how do you create psychological safety? So how do you create an environment where people feel safe to come to you, to have a real conversation? How do you instill that with them? So we spend a lot of time looking at that as well. So that's kind of the background, a bit of the context. I'm just going to pause there and see if there's any. I'm conscious that I'm And by the way, when you're in the class, we will not be doing a lot of talking. We'll introduce things and then we're going to get you to play and practice. That's really how we roll with our programs. But I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to come off mute or to ask a question in the chat box. Okay, I will proceed. So in our program, we have 4 live sessions, and I'll come to the dates of those in a minute. But I'll just talk a little bit about each of those sessions. So session 1 is really the foundations of coaching. So we start by looking at how do you create psychological safety? It's such an important concept, and you're going to learn how to get confident in being able to do that with the cohort that you're going to be in for this program, and also for your teams at work. So how do you normalize, looking at cultural differences? How do you really bring that team together so that they feel there's a shared responsibility for the outcomes and how they show up in these team meetings or as a group? So we spend time looking at that. We then look at the differences between coaching and mentoring. So, mentoring we're defining as, I'm the expert, I have the answers, and I'm going to be giving you advice, or more, I'm going to be telling you. Whereas coaching is much more about, I'm empowering you, and I'm going to guide you by asking those open-ended, powerful questions to solve your own problems. So we do a demo, and we really demonstrate a very clear distinction between those two. We then look at the mindsets of coaching. So the idea of, the other person has the answer within them. They're creative and resourceful and whole. And really just focusing more on the other person and their relationship to the topic or the thing that they're bringing in, and not getting sucked into the details. So those are the mindsets. And then we give you the skills. And so we've got 15 or so coaching skills. We start with listening. If you don't have the ability to listen effectively, it's going to be really hard to do anything else. You can't really be in conversation with someone if it's a monologue. So we have a method called levels of listening, where you can really become self-aware of what frequency do I need to tune into right now? Am I tuning into myself? Am I tuning into the data, the facts, the information? Or am I tuning into the other person and their relationship to the topic, more like empathic listening? So we look at that. We then start looking at questions. So how to ask what we call powerful questions, how to get people engaged in the conversation by asking questions differently. We then give you a bunch of other skills, and you will be practicing those a lot. So you'll be practicing them in class, in the live sessions, and then you'll be getting into small groups between sessions. So you'll watch videos. We have demos of us doing coaching sessions with people. There's audios you're going to listen to. There's different videos. There's reading. And then you're going to get into pairs for the first round, and you're going to practice with them. You then come back 2 weeks later. We do more work with skills. We do more demos. And then we look at values. So how to work with values, how to help yourself and the people that work in your team to connect with the things that are important to them. Such an important part of leadership. You then go away, you practice more of that. And then in module 3, we bring in this idea of reactive to creative. So this idea of how do you help someone shift? So we're really tuning your ear into what we call self-limiting beliefs, the things that hold us back. And we look at the skill of reframing and visioning to help see things differently. It's one of the gifts that we have as humans, is the ability to look at things from different perspectives. So we play around with that to help shift and get somebody above the line. Then in module 4, we really, the session 4, we then bring it all together with integration and application and sustainment. So we really start looking at how you're going to integrate this into your leadership style. How is this going to make you a more effective and better leader? So there's a lot of accountability that comes with that, that you'll be doing throughout the program in small groups. And that continues after the end of the program. We invite you to continue practicing and have thought partners to integrate that as we go through it. And so, Andrea, thank you for your question. It's a great question. Would this course be beneficial for someone not in a manager or a leader role? I would say if you're an individual contributor, then the benefit would be much more limited. So I'll just start with sort of that end of the spectrum. If you're not leading anybody and not really, engaging with a wide number of different people within the workforce, then possibly not. If you are influencing others, so maybe like, for example, a consultant, where you're having to influence others, then absolutely. And we get a lot of people in the program who are looking to be more of an influencer, but they may not actually have, that responsibility or authority over, a team. And then I'm going to just pause. I just want to check, Andrew, if I'm on point with you before I keep talking. I just want to, if you want to maybe just respond and anything more specific about your question, hopefully I can answer it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'll come off mute for that. So I am an individual contributor, but I also do work I do have to influence other people, especially senior leaders I interact with a lot, and I do have to influence them. I have to influence business lines that may have competing priorities in order to do the things that I need them to do and incorporate my work as part of their priorities.
And in some ways, you got a tougher job there.
Yes.
In some ways, influencing is, you don't have the authority, but you're kind of getting, you're hoping that people are gonna maybe do things for you. Sometimes you can't always reciprocate with that, and it can be challenging. And so with our program, one of the core skills is the ability to create that connection and really through listening and demonstrating, like paraphrasing back what you're hearing. It's almost like you earn the right to influence, or you earn the right to give advice, those kind of things. So a lot of it's about normalizing the relationships, and with the co-creating the relationship that we do at the beginning, it's establishing that and those ground rules so that you can hopefully be able to influence. Does that help answer your question?
It does, and from what you were talking about, a lot of things that you were talking about, although I'm not directly coaching anyone, I do have to coach people in order to influence them.
Yeah. Good. And I think another piece to this is you get to understand people better because you're really tuning into, at business, we're so focused on transactions, getting things done, results, performance, and all of those things which don't go away, obviously. But what we do is we really tune your ear much more into, like with values, for example. It's like, who is this person? What is important to them? How do they see the world? So when we look at self-limiting beliefs and self-affirming beliefs, it's like, how are they seeing this situation? And through the skills of listening, and we have a specific skill of, like, we call it sensing, which is like empathic listening, is your ability to say, listen, I'm sensing right now that you're frustrated about this, or I'm noticing that there's something here that isn't jiving. It keeps the conversation real. And if that other person truly feels seen and heard, they're much more likely to want to work with you. And so it really does bring in the much more of the human element of work. Does that help?
It does a great deal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so that's a little bit about the modules. I just want to underscore, like, that between the modules, there is a good amount of homework. And I think in total is about, for the whole program is about 30 hours. So if you take out the 12 or so hours that you're going to be live, you know, for the Zoom sessions, which will have 2 trainers, by the way. So there'll be two trainers for each of those sessions. There's a bunch of things that is expected for you to do in between, and it's really clearly laid out in the program guide. So for each module, it's kind of listed, you know, here's what you need to do for each of the steps of the program. Any other questions at this point? Okay, so I'm going to just share my screen for a moment and just give you a bit more specific details. So the registration deadline for this is the 20th of September. There's an orientation call on the 22nd of September, and really that's just to get you ready for the program in terms of what you need to prepare for. And then module 1 is on September the 28th. So that one is 3.5 hours, 9:30 Eastern time that starts. And then modules 2, 3, and 4 are 9:30 to 12:30 in October the 12th, October the 26th, November the 9th. And then there's a completion call on the 10th of September. So that's that information. On the website, I'll put the link in there. There is some of our alumni sharing a little bit about their experience and what they learned from going through this program. So that's an overview there. Alison, anything I'm missing?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered it all really well.
Yeah. Anything that feels important for any other questions? Some questions that we typically get asked, like how many people are in the cohort? So, you know, it's usually between 20 to 25. We're getting pretty busy for this one now. It's getting pretty full. Sometimes we'll get a number of people from a certain organization. They may send like 10 people. And then we get a broad variety from different industries. So it really does vary from in any industry, really. Some people are senior leaders, some people are managers, some people are consultants, a bit like Andrea's, you know, people that have influence over, but not necessarily have like direct reports. What are some of the highlights of the program? I think it's really practice. You know, the idea that you don't finish this program and sort of have a binder that you put on the shelf. Like, this is learning. It's so immersive and experiential that the way that we've designed it is that it will become part of your vernacular. It will become part of how you relate to other people through the practice that you're doing with your classmates, with people at work, and through listening to us as the trainers, watching us in these asynchronously. When you watch our recorded webinars, it's like you'll start asking questions differently and you'll start having a different impact. You know, and we define leadership as you're responsible for your impact. So, you know, ACT, our company, stands for Awareness, Choice, Transformation. So if you're not aware, you know, we all have blind spots and we all do what has worked for us in the past. It's like we copy and paste. We say, well, I was in this role before and this worked for me. And we don't sort of spring clean or refresh our mindsets around, or our leadership style. So this really, you're going to receive coaching as well. And it's really going to, for all of you, to have a really hard look at yourselves and say, like, how effective is my style right now? And what is it that I could do differently as a leader that might help have a greater impact on the people that I work with and work for? So that's kind of the main questions that we get. We are very confident, and we have experience, as I say, in the federal government, and they keep buying more of these every year. We just got a 5-year deal with a very big federal agency, and they are really seeing the impact of their leadership teams using these skills and integrating and shifting the culture. You know, inclusivity, diversity is such a big deal for all of us. And, you know, people going back to work post-COVID, like all of these different things that are happening, and the leaders that are responding well are ones that are using coaching, not exclusively. There's obviously many different ways to lead, but we're seeing that coaching is a really good way to create better connection, safety, trust, inclusivity in the workforce. So that's probably where I'm going to leave it for now. And thank all of you for attending this call. And I wish you all a good day.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.